Hello everyone, I am Erika of beadingschool.com and you are watching Coffee Time with Erika, my weekly beady broadcast. Today I would like to talk about my favorite shaped beads to work with. But first, please let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. I would like to make sure that the technical things are all right. You can watch, by the way, today's Coffee Time with Erika in real time, in real life, from the Beading School Facebook Club, from the Beading School Facebook page, from my personal profile, and also from YouTube. And later, all the recordings stay online, so you will be able to rewatch the video if you would like to. In the meanwhile, Bex and Sandra and Una and Jessica say that they can see me and hear me. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for letting me know, dear ladies. And hi, Terry and Una, Sandra, Sarah, Bex, Jessica, Belinda, Nancy, Irina, Sherry, Miriam, Eve, and so many lovely beaders. Dorothy catching a live for the first time. That's special. And Catherine is here, and Carol, and Jennifer, and Susan, and Donna, and Jan. So if you haven't heard your name, then it means that I don't see your name. I see you as Facebook user. It happens if you are watching from the Beading School Facebook Club. The club is a closed, safe space for Beading School beaders on the internet, and no one, not even my broadcasting program, can see what's happening in the club. So if you would like to, you can actually give it permission so I am able to see your name, and I think it makes it so much nicer and easier to talk to each other. To do that, you need to open the description of the video, and in the last sentence you find a link, and you can click on that link to enable the program to see your name. It will not do anything else, just makes it nicer for us to talk to each other. You might need to do it every time when you watch a live video, but it takes only 2 seconds, so I hope that it's not too much of a problem. I would also like to greet Chelsea and Cindy and Marianne and Connie and Kristen and Debbie and Corinne and Katja and Molly and other Debbie and Dawn and Heather and Shelley. So today we are going to talk about all kinds of shaped beads. Which ones do I like to work with? Which ones are maybe not so easy to come up to work with for a design? And most importantly, how do I think about the shaped beads? When do I think that it's good? When do I think that maybe it's not for me or not for me at the moment? So I will share with you everything what I can about shaped beads, and I'm also super curious what kind of shaped beads do you like to work with. I will also have a surprise waiting for you. I will tell you more at the end of today's video, and of course I will share also what kind of live events are coming during the upcoming days, weeks at Beading School. But let's get started. So, beading with fire polished beads and round pearls and glass and crystal rivolis, so the circular shapes, will result in beautiful jewels on your bead mat. Some of you maybe beaded the Starry Night bracelet with me at the beginning when we started with No One Has to Bead Alone, and it has, as you can see, only 3mm bicone beads. All the other shapes are circular, but the result, I think, it's like pretty good. There are many tutorials out there waiting for you that use only circular beads, especially the early no one has to bead alone designs. Starry Night is one of those, but there are many more, and you can venture out and spend lots and lots of times on your bead mat while playing only with circular beads. However, besides these safe choice shapes, it's also nice to embrace challenges and bring versatility to our stashes. This is how we can train ourselves to be more creative, to come up with unique solutions, and after all, to keep beading interesting and fresh all the time. Today I will tell you about my favorite shaped beads to bead with, why do I like them, and of course show you many beautiful examples of finished pieces. I see every here and there questions popping up, so every once in a while I will stop to don't lose my way of thinking, and then I will look into the questions. So, shaped beads, what are shaped beads? For me, it means that they are not circular, and they so everything besides the round pearls and the fire polished beads, which are in fact ovals, but we tend to call them round beads, and besides seed beads and besides round crystals. So they can be made with different techniques. We find them between fire polished beads. Just think about parachutes, drops, and olives, for example. There are many pressed glass beads in this category, and this is actually the most populous group, the pressed glass beads. But even seed beads and table cut beads come in different shapes. But before we would dive deep into the shapes themselves, there is one name that I have to mention. And I think that most of you will be very familiar with her. So I am talking about Sabine Lippert, beadwork and bead designer from Germany. Sabine, in collaboration with one of our beloved partners from the Czech Republic, the partner who is also responsible for coating Japanese Miyuki beads with our favorite Czech finishes, so Sabine had a great impact on the new evolution of shaped beads and multi-hole beads. Shaped beads were there also in the past, but during the past about 15 years, there is like a new evolution of shaped beads, or many historic shapes are rediscovered, but also new shapes added and multi-hole shapes appearing first in the beading world. And Sabine is very much responsible for that great addition in the beading world. One of the first beads that Sabine, if I'm not mistaken, this was actually the very first bead that Sabine designed, was the rizo, that is the turquoise elongated drop on the edge of the ring that you see. And a bit later, she also came up with the idea of the super duos, which were the first multi-hole beads. Susan says, love Sabine Lippert. Her work is so amazing. And she's also a very nice person to spend and fun person to spend time with if you have the possibility to join one of her classes. So just a second. So when I will talk today about like which shapes do I like to work with and which shapes I don't feel that much inspired by, then at first I would like to emphasize that this is all very personal. And while I might feel inspired by a shape and work a lot with it, a fellow designer might have a completely, or you might have a completely different opinion, and that's completely all right. And the opposite might also be possible when I don't have that many ideas for a specific shape, but another beader would not be able to stop her beading needle because she feels so inspired by the same. So when it comes to like deciding, making my own personal decisions about shaped beads, if I see them as like good shapes or not so inspiring shapes, then I can divide my criteria into two groups. One regarding their physical appearance, and these are the properties that can't be changed, and the second one being a very subjective factor, mainly that how many ideas can I come up with when I am playing with the shape on my bead mat or in my graphic design program. I often do that with all kinds of material, not only shaped beads, but also with cabochons and with whole motifs, as you could see at some of the coffee time videos. I will pop a link into the comment fields with a blog article and also a video at the bottom when we were doing that together and we were actually playing with the Jaisalmer beaded motif, and we were like together brainstorming that what kind of ideas can we come up with for that beaded motif. But I do the same for shapes themselves, so you can do that too, of course. And here you can see a picture that I took when I was thinking about how can I arrange kite cabochons, for example, when I was thinking about ideas for the Sibylla Beading School Academy team box, and I do the same for bead shapes all the time. And this, how many motifs can I come up with, is a very personal factor, and it might also change over time. It might change with the creative energy that I have at the moment, or sometimes it's also affected by having the same shape in a more appealing color that sparkles my imagination more. And when I am getting to know a bead shape or search for new ideas for one that I already have in my stash for a while, I often start my design process this way. I lay out a bunch of beads that I would like to focus on my bead mat, match them with other shapes, arrange them in different ways, and if I don't forget, then I take a picture so I remember all these ideas for the future. What I personally like to play with is also affected by the type of beading that I like to do. And since I love bead weaving projects with intricate thread passes and elegant, neat results, then some shapes simply don't make that much sense on my bead mat, or don't make that much sense at this specific moment. However, I can imagine that they bring a unique look and dimension if a beader likes stringing projects, for example, and the drawings that you see on the screen now, they are actually simplified versions, views of real beads that are being manufactured at the moment. However, these are shapes that I don't really see appearing in my beading stash or in the beading school bead shop in the near future. Another way how I start to play with, besides like arranging the beads on my bead mat and taking pictures, so another kind of like test when I start to play with a bead shape on my bead mat is that I want to see if I can create a circle only by using that specific shape or only with the addition of seed beads in between. And the result is often a beaded mandala, in my opinion, the easiest type of motif to design and to bead, as you are always progressing in one direction around and around a focal component. The whole Miyukitila family, the gem duo, the diamond duo beads, super duos, crescents, vibe duos, vexolos work wonderfully in beaded mandalas. And I would also like to mention a bead shape that we are playing with these days, the ginkgos. They are a bit tricky and different when it comes to creating circles, but a mandala is still doable with them. But instead of progressing in a simple circular thread path, you need to bead up and down through the ginkgos as the holes are drilled in a different way. When I first saw them, then I actually asked the inventor of ginkgos a few years ago, why did they choose to make the holes these ways? And actually, there was a very good answer. So if the holes were drilled in a different way, so there would be one hole running through the thin part of the bead and then one hole running through the thick part of the beads, then the holes made the ginkgos too fragile to work with. So with this modification, they made the ginkgos, they kept the nice aesthetics, of course, but they also made them nice and sturdy. And on the picture, you can see an example from Veronka. It's her Annette motif that we beaded 2 weeks ago during No One Has to Bead Alone. So it is indeed possible to create a circular shape with the ginkgos, even if the holes are drilled in a different way. And when it comes to the physical appearance of beads, and briefly, I touched it with this little story about the manufacturer of the ginkgos. It is important to keep in mind that there are some limitations regarding manufacturing that need to be kept in mind in order to create a sturdy, inspiring shape. Of course, we beaders like to work with good quality beads that don't chip easily. And all shapes are tested by groups of designers before they would appear on the shelves of the bead shops. And sometimes many adjustments are made until we can see the final result. For example, a couple of years ago, there was a bead shape which is very nice, the Avas. However, they tended to be more fragile. And of course, the distributors called them the broken ones. However, since they had to throw away such a big percentage of the Ava beads and the Ava beads, then the price got pushed up higher. So yeah, there can be different things happening. Just a moment. Just another example of the ginkgos. So the ginkgo beads are just a proof that often there is more engineering behind something that we would have thought at first sight, even behind tiny beads. And there is another actually very basic, very important requirement about bead shapes that surprised me some years ago when I first heard about it. And this requirement this rule is about how the holes can be drilled, because it's not only about like making the whole bead more fragile or more sturdy, but there is something else. So when a few years ago I was playing with the idea of designing a bead shape. The idea is still on my mind, by the way. Then when I showed it to one of our partners, then he pointed out a very basic mistake that I made. That in some cases I draw the holes in a cross shape or like in another angle, but indeed the holes, the two holes were not parallel to each other. So I think it sounds absolutely logical to have a square or any other shape where the holes would cross each other, because it would be so nice to work with. However, I learned that it's actually not possible to make. So that's why, for example, tile beads, they always have the holes parallel. And talking about also beads, shaped beads, after the first big boom of multi-hole beads, starting with the super duos that I mentioned, a very natural phase came to the beading world when I had the feeling that manufacturers were pushing the limits and were testing that how many holes fit into a bead. So some 3-hole beads, but even some 4-hole variations appeared, though not so many of them. The 4-hole beads can be used in ropes, for example, but I have a feeling that more holes don't always bring more possibilities. And for me personally, 2 holes in a bead are comfy to work with. 3 sometimes make sense, like for example in the Rosetta Armor bracelet here, the Kali beads, as they are fixed in 3 different points. But 4 would make sense for me only in very, very specific situations that I haven't really encountered yet. I would also love to hear about your experience. How many holes do you prefer in a bead? Are 2 enough for you? Have you tried working with 3 or 4-hole beads too? Or is it something that haven't appeared yet on your bead mat? In the meanwhile, I would also like to greet Sharon and Bex and Rachel and Samya and Cindy and Lita. And Kristen is asking, why is it impossible to make crossing holes? I don't know the details yet, unfortunately. We will be visiting the Crystal Valley again. So this is something that I will have to ask about and about more. And Terry says 2 is fine for me. Cindy says, I love 2-hole shaped beads. Kristen is also for 2. Katya says, I never worked with 3-hole beads. Joyce, I see you. Anita is here. Sherry says, I have only tried beading with 1 or 2-hole beads. And Bex says she has an example for more hole beads. So she says 2 holes is enough, but I have made some beautiful ropes with quadratiles. Yet ropes are basically my only idea that come to my mind when thinking about more than 2 holes. Rachel also says, I think 2 is great. Too many holes can sometimes limit the usage I can make, as I never want empty holes to show. Indeed. But on the other hand, when we have a bigger shape that is drilled only once, it can also create problems when designing. Most bead shapes can easily serve as a hanging part under a beaded motif. However, for me, it feels a little bit short on the possibilities when that is my only idea of how I can use that specific shape. So besides the two-hole daggers that you see on the screen now and that I love using, there are also dagger beads out there in the same sizes, but they have only one hole. And they are perfect as a drop, but if you use them in a different position, they might be unstable or you need complicated solutions to fix them. And a fun fact, the first version of my sea urchin design actually included one-hole daggers, and later I simplified it and finally drew the instruction when some two-hole daggers finally appeared on my bead mat. And of course, not only the number, but the placement of the holes and the distance between them is important for me. So the holes, when they are parallel, they are the easiest to work with. There are possibilities to like the holes not matching, not crossing each other, but then they end up on different levels and it's a weird effect. I can't even really explain it well. But then they are also not so easy to work with. And when it comes to the distance, then I find it nice if the distance is kind of enough to add a half tilla bead, for example, in between, or maybe two Miyuki size 11 delica beads, but not much more. And with the placement of the holes, we already started to talk about the physical characteristics of the beads after my personal tests. And let me add a few more thoughts to this part for you to consider. So when it comes to the size, when a bead is bigger, it can serve as a strong visual detail in our jewels. The nicer the color, then the more we want from it, right? However, big beads also bring challenges as they are often more challenging to stabilize. Think about table cut drops on the pictures. And for example, indeed, the dreaming necklace. It was super fun to design and bead it, but definitely not the easiest to come up with a solution so the table cut beads don't turn around. And on top of that, bigger beads also can be more fragile, and when you add something to the edges, then seed beads can easily slip down on the edges. So in my personal experience, I prefer shaped beads that are not too big. Let's say, for example, maximum 8 millimeter. Think about like 5 times 8 millimeter gem duos, or 5 times 7 millimeter round drop duos. I find them super easy and nice to play with. And it also matters how the bead itself is shaped, of course. So geometric shapes instantly, I think, give lots of ideas. They literally act like bricks in our beadwork. So do you maybe recall the times when we were focusing on quarter tillas, half tillas, and Miyuki tilla beads during the No One Has to Bead Alone lessons? We were beading for months using only circular shapes and the Miyuki tilla families, and every week we enjoyed a different design. The Tilla family, all members of the Tilla family, they fly through the mandala test that I mentioned before. And as you can see, they are also perfect for bezeling. This is the Edme brooch, by the way. It was also a No One Has to Bead Alone design. And for a beginner beader who is just getting to know the shaped beads, I would definitely recommend them as a first step to discover the beauty and all the possibilities of multi-hole beads. What do you think about this? And Terry already wrote in the meanwhile, I am a Tila girl for sure. My favorite shape. Eve has an idea for the tile beads. She would like to have them with 4 holes as they are a little heavier and would be nice to have the support. Indeed, actually the weight, that didn't even come to my mind, but that's such a good point, Eve, that the weight of the beads is also something to consider. Lita also say, I second that, they are always perfect. Katja also loves the Tila family and Antoinette too. But we don't always have to stick to geometric shapes, of course. For me, as long as the curves and angles are not too crazy, I love the shaped beads like super duos, gem duos, mini diamond duos, for example. And the last physical aspect of beads that I would like to mention is symmetry. So if you can draw 2 lines in a right angle through the shape where both lines divide the bead into identical halves, like with the half tilas and the gem duos in the upper row, then I find it that it's easier to work with those shapes. And when they are not symmetrical, the shapes are not symmetrical in both directions, then they are a bit more challenging. Not impossible, of course, but a bit more challenging. But also when a bead shape is simply well designed, then it doesn't matter that the shape is not symmetrical in this way, and that brings storm duos to my head. But here I would also like to mention a bead shape that I am actually sad for, and maybe some of you are familiar with the Zoli duos. They are similar to paisley duos, but you have to have a right side bead and a left side bead because the top and the bottom are not identical. And I think they look absolutely amazing, and they are so elegant, and actually more elegant in my opinion than the paisley duos. But the complicacy of having to have a left side and right side version, and also when I think about the challenge of teaching with solid duos and explaining all the time the right side bead, left side bead, top hole of the right side bead from left to right, bottom hole of the left side bead from right to left, that unfortunately, even if like I look at them and I'm like drooling, I chose paisley duos over solid duos because of this practical reason. And Bex says solid duos were pretty but so impractical. And Leta also says lovely beads but terrible to buy and work with. And I'm so sad for them. And after mentioning all these aspects which determine for me if a bead shape is nice to play with or not, I have to add a last thought about breaking these rules that I mentioned. And breaking the rules is a very natural element when it comes to creativity. So sometimes the excitement factor is so high when I look at a bead shape that I decide to work with that shape, even if at first sight it does not have that many opportunities or is not so easy to work with. And I have to say that shell beads are one of these. They can easily be hanged below the beaded motif, but when it comes to fixing them in a different way, it is more challenging. However, even if only 2 weeks have passed since we opened the Sirens of the Northern 3 Beading School Academy team box, I already see that on one hand, my intuition was right when I chose them for the box, because they have more possibilities than I can imagine, but also that together the Beading School community is capable of a lot more than any single designer could have imagined. So when I was thinking about the shell beads, I imagined them hanging under the motifs, but then Susie came with the Dufa motif and she fixed them perfectly and she created this beautiful pendant. And today I saw this amazing creation from Terry. Terry is here with us in the Beading School Club, and she decided to bezel the shell bead. So this is something that totally didn't come to my mind. So thank you so much for bringing together all these ideas, ladies, and thank you, Susie, and thank you, Terry. And before, I would recommend you 2 sources that help you with learning about working with shaped beads. I would also like to mention 2 surprises connected to them that the Beading School Treasury team was working on during these past days. So, on one hand, we know how much you love bead bundles, and bundles bring you a collection of beads in the same shape in different colors for a better price. And since we know that you love them, that's why Edina and Timmy created many new shaped bead bundles for you, from good old favorites like the Diabolos or the 2-hole daggers, but also some completely new shapes and new colors, like the shell beads that we were just talking about. I would also really like to recommend checking out all the beautiful ginkgos that we have just added one by one in the bead shop, but also in bundles. And 3 colors of the shell beads, 2 new and 1 that you already know from the box. And I have to tell you about the shell beads, that's 2 other colors that when I showed them to Veronica and Susie during our regular meeting on Monday, then we had to give up working for a while and just focusing on these beautiful colors that I found the shell beads in. And the second surprise that the Beading School Treasury team prepared for you is a big thank you to everyone who keeps Beading School going with your very, very valued bead orders. It is thanks to them that we can bring you Coffee Time with Erika, that we can bring you No One Has to Bead Alone, and all the daily beady inspiration and education. And that's why this week, every beader who decides to place an order requiring shipping in the Beading School Bead Shop during today's and next week's Coffee Time with Erika will receive a nice gift from us. All the gifts, they will include 3 things: a pair of earrings, a pair of custom-coated Preciosa chatons, maybe for the earrings, and also a bag of beads, maybe fire-polished, maybe bicones, maybe shaped beads, maybe seed beads. And we prepared one gift for every beader, so not per order, but per beader. So if you place 3 orders, then you will receive one gift. And there is no minimum amount to receive the gift, but we would like, as we would like to say thank you to everyone, but we would also like to kindly ask you to keep your bead orders over 10 euros to help us work effectively. Thank you. And I mentioned that I would like to share with you 2 sources, 2 tools that help you learn about working with shaped beads. And one of them is an article called How to Work with Flower-Shaped Beads. And these shapes, the flower-shaped beads, are intriguing and beautiful to work with, but often there is no easy solution to fix them from turning around. So in this article, I'm sharing the link now, I collected my best practices and tutorials that teach you the most about how you can solve these kinds of situations. And like this is made, for example, with the flower-shaped beads. And then I would like to mention a tool that we have in the bead shop. It's called the Bead Shape Finder. Just a sec, and I will show you. This is how it looks like, and I will show you how it works. So can you see me? Can you hear me? It should be okay now. Please let me know. Yes. So do you see me and the bead shop? You cannot hear me. You still can't hear me? Can hear you. Okay. It came back. Everyone says, okay, wonderful. So the tool that I wanted to show you, when you visit the beading school bead shop, the bead shop part, then if you scroll down to the bottom, there is this find a tutorial part. And here, if you click on a specific shape, for example, let's click on quartertillas, then it will bring up all the tutorials for you that include quartertillas. There are also older, no one has to be their own designs. There are also sometimes gift tutorials, sometimes bead shop tutorials, but definitely like a wide array of tutorials that you can try if you would like to get to know more about working with a specific bead shape. And after these 2 tools, I would like to also share what's coming during the upcoming week. So there are soon new tutorials that we will be sharing. Ula and Bubble, for example, that many of you will receive as a thank you for your purchases in the bead shop during the past week. So Edina will be in touch about them tomorrow with an email, and you will be able to bead them tomorrow. During the weekend, we will also publish Zuzi's awaited Dufa tutorial with the shell beads. And in the meanwhile, on Friday, we will have a special guest, Chloe of Pink Hot Jewelry, who will share with us the small mandala version of her Battle of the Beadsmith earrings. And I can't wait to beat that together with you. The big version of the tutorial will be available on Chloe's website, and the small version, the middle of the mandala, that will be Chloe's gift to all beading school beaders who join. No one has to bead alone. So, lovelies, do you have any questions left? I would love to answer them. And hi, Niti. And Catherine says, I just love this design of Susie's. Me too, Catherine. It came out so nice. Okay, so if there is no more question, then I would like to thank you for your attention today. Irene is asking, where do we find the tutorials by shape again, please? You go to the bead shop. I will share the screen one more time. Just a moment. So if you visit the bead shop and you go to the bottom, then there is this part, find a tutorial with, at the very bottom of the left sidebar. It's easier if you search on a computer and not on your phone, because it might feel that it's hidden a little bit. And Louisa has a question. Erika, when will the Theodora be available to purchase as a tutorial? Theodora will come as a kit plus tutorial during the Beading School Advent Calendar. So I definitely recommend signing up for the Advent Calendar. It will be one of those specials that will be available only during that time. Dawn is asking, I wondered if you can substitute fire polished beads for round beads of the same size. Dawn, I can't give you a yes or no answer for that. This is one of those situations when sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no, unfortunately. They have a slightly different shape. The round pearls are truly circular, and the fire polished round beads are more elongated like an oval, and sometimes it does matter. So it's not always easy to substitute. And thank you, Linda, and everyone for your kind words. And Kristen has a good tip for everyone. It is less scrolling down to the bottom if you first choose the tutorials from the bead shop. I actually didn't know that, Kristen. Thank you so much. I will try it now. Sherry is asking, can you explain a little about the Advent calendar? Dear Sherry, I will pop the link into the comment fields, and you can send us an email to info@beadingschool.com to ask more about it. But unfortunately today, as the time is limited, I can't go into details about the Advent calendar. It is, like, to summarize it in one sentence, it is a wonderful opportunity to get access to goodies. On one hand, some of them for a really good price, and on the other hand, to get access to goodies which are otherwise not available at all. Louisa already signed up. So, okay. Facebook user friend is asking, the bundle for the blue mandala is available again in the bead shop. Which blue mandala, please? I don't know now that which mandala shape do you mean? But regarding older beads being available again, the best is if you sign up to the waiting list. I will show you again how. For example, I find here something that is out of stock, and then I click on the add to wish list option. So when it becomes available again, then I will get an email notification that I can return to the bead shop to have it. Also, when we are selecting that what are the most urgent things to restock, then we are really looking into the wish lists, that how many beaders are waiting for a specific shape or color. So that helps us to make decisions. And also, if you are wondering about a bead bundle or a jewel bundle, then this is about Chloe's big mandala. Please pop us an email to info@beadingschool.com. So thank you so much, everyone, for your attention today. And I am really looking forward to bead with you Chloe's design on Friday. Have a nice creative rest of your weeks. Bye-bye.